We've had a lot of unfortunate rapper deaths, especially lately. I want to talk about that also, but we'll kind of preface it with this question. Besides Tupac and maybe even Biggie, what was the rapper death that hit you the hardest?
And I would say Prodigy.
Yeah,
From Mobb, that was a hard one. It was a little unexpected as well, and then the way that it happened, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but I just feel like there's a little more to it.
a lot of people think go into it because a lot of people don't know what you and I are thinking. Because I know the whole, and I don't like to use the CON words, conspiracy, because YouTube will strike shit. Yeah. But give me your thoughts on basically tell everybody where you're going with this.
Well, I mean, think about it like this. I would say, at least from what I saw from Prodigy the last few years of his life, like he was digging a little more into, conspiracies and things like that, the Illuminati and all that other stuff, which, he was doing a lot of that in his raps back in the days too. But I just felt like towards the end there,
Illuminati,
like he
got my mind, soul, and my body.
Yeah. Like I felt like he was digging a little more into it towards the end of his life, like of the last few years, I think. And I mean, listen, again, I'm right there with you. Like, I don't like to speculate or anything like that, but at the same time, you kind of have to analyze the situation and try to put two and two together in your mind. So again, with that being said, I think there's a little more to the story than what was presented to the public. That's just my take on that.
I have to agree on that as well. Let's dive a little bit deeper. Let's dive a little bit deeper into that. Because a lot of people say that there was a secret meeting in the 90s. Are you familiar with the secret meeting? I know Crazy Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony is one of the ones who kind of dug this up years ago, and everybody's been running with it. But for anyone who doesn't know about it, and maybe yourself, I'm sure you probably are aware, but allegedly there was a secret meeting in the 90s with a bunch of music executives, and basically they decided that we're going to push gangster rap and rap that kills black people, kills Latinos, blah blah blah, and work hand in hand with the prison system. Are you familiar with that meeting, and what are your thoughts on that whole thing?
So I heard actually a while back I've heard about this particular meeting or several meetings that took place. Honestly, like I don't know the ins and outs of it, obviously, like what was talked about or what happened, but at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me, because if you think about it and you kind of look at how things progressed from that point in time in the 90s to now, I just think that, a lot of things have happened throughout that point in time, where, you have the blacks going against the blacks and, people, the blacks going against each other, killing each other and all of that. But then you have all these corporations that are still promoting this stuff, that are marketing it, that are putting money into it. So I think there definitely is an agenda out there. And it's not just with music. You see that, with movies, TV shows, a lot of that kind of stuff. But I think music in particular is the target, right?
Yeah.
So, none of this stuff surprises me. I mean, I heard about what Bugsy was talking about. I didn't get too deep into that whole, particular conversation, but I did get some, a little bit of what he was saying. And again, it doesn't surprise me one bit if that really did take place. Because how are you going to have all these rappers, again, like Prodigy, I think even Tupac himself might have, said a few things here and there about it. Maybe not in those particular words, but I know he kind of broke down some things. And yeah. I think DMX at one point, he was talking about, quote unquote, the industry. How the industry tries to, control certain things that go on. So, I mean, I think all of that stuff is connected.
Yeah. Let's fast forward to today. Probably the number one sound out there for kids is drill music. Originated in Chicago, some would say, has an influence in the UK, but definitely most likely originated in Chicago, but now it's everywhere, including the East Coast, New York, New Jersey. I mean, everywhere. These kids are just on this drill sound. I'm curious, what are your thoughts as someone, an elder in hip hop? What are your thoughts? Let's start with just on drill music in general.
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of it. You can ask me what artists out there, what drill music artists out there. I can't name one of them. You know what I mean? Like it's not something I'm into. I do see the influence, and again, I'm not a fan, and especially me being a dad. You feel me? Like, back in my time when back in the '90s, obviously our music that came out back then wasn't per se the best either. Because you're promoting the violence and all that other stuff, street life and everything like that, right? But I don't know. I just feel like now, with the way things are now, a lot of these kids out there are just so influenced by all this BS that a lot of these artists are talking about. And another thing about it is that, to me, I just feel there's no substance. There's no talent behind that music or the message, I guess, a quote unquote message that's being portrayed. I'm not a fan at all. And I think that it's only going to get worse before it gets any better.
This is only the beginning, man. You are not lying, Bugs.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would love, and you mentioned something, the music, some of the music in our time, was talking about a lot of the same content. But when Ice Cube was talking about it, he was telling stories of street life. When Ice-T was talking about it, he was telling stories. Now these kids, dog, and this, they're telling in their songs what they're actually doing. I busted on such and such right there on 63rd Street, and I did it in front of the Winchell's, and the feds and the cops are literally piecing all this together and arresting people based on the lyrics. And then they're going to go and say that everybody else is snitching on them, when in reality they're snitching on themselves in music.
Snitching on themselves, yeah. I mean, everything is just so different. And then think about it like this: back then, when like Ice Cube and them were portraying the message and giving their stories, we didn't have the internet earlier on at that particular moment in time where you can go out there and boast about it or talk about it, or post like where you're at or what you're doing or what you did. You know what I mean? Nowadays, it's like you got people on Facebook Live, like a lot of these artists, these drill artists on Facebook Live talking about, oh, I'm over here, catch me over here, I'm outside.
I'm live.
I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then, 20 minutes later, they end up getting popped.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see how that makes sense to me. It does not make sense at all. I just feel that, the snitching is out of line. The craving for the attention is out of line too, and I think that's what a lot of these youngsters are doing. They're attention whores. They crave it, and they want to put it out there to broadcast on display. And once they end up getting popped, it's like, all right, there goes another one. And it's like you said not too long ago, it's becoming a norm now. Like it seems like people getting killed and this and that is just, it's a norm. It's I don't know. I just feel like it's crazy nowadays. Compared to how it was back then, it's definitely crazy now.
Yeah, and you said attention, or what these youngsters call clout, is a bigger drug than crack, and it's just you're right there posting stuff on Instagram. I mean, literally posting guns and drugs, and they think that if they delete it, they delete their message, or if the story disappears, that the feds aren't going to be able to use it in the future. Dude, yeah.
Like like how stupid is that? I try to sit back and analyze and understand, and it's like I just don't see the logic. Why would you want to incriminate yourself? You're posting pictures of yourself holding guns and all this money and all this other stuff, and then you're putting your location, like where you're at. And again, it's like you said, if something happens down the line where you get caught up, you end up getting the case. You're not going to win that case. You incriminated yourself at that point. So I mean, I don't understand where these young kids' minds are at nowadays, and why they do what they do. But hey, to each his own, I guess.